Hi, welcome to TOEFL's Wednesday Review video series. My name is Leah. Each week we review an actual student submission here on YouTube. So if that sounds like something you're interested in participating in, I'll let you know how you can do that at the end of this video. Thank you to all of the students that participated this week. We had a lot of strong submissions as always. What I'd like to do this week is review a writing submission, but first let's take a look at our question. Many parts of the world are losing important natural resources such as forests, animals, or clean water. Choose one resource that is disappearing and explain why it needs to be saved. Use specific reasons and examples to support your opinion. So this is a particularly challenging question, and I actually would encourage all of you to practice with this question at home. Now, as I said, we had a lot of great submissions. I'd like to take a look at one submission this week that receives a score of between 13 and 15 out of 30. So although there are a lot of good points with this essay, it does need a lot of strong work. As you can see, the word count is a bit light at 233 words. So the student really needs to work on developing his examples to increase the word count by about 200 words. So that will take a lot of hard work, and I'll get into how we can do that in just a moment. First, I'd like to just review quickly the basic mechanics and grammar of this particular submission. So in terms of mechanics, we have mentioned this before, but make sure there is one space between every word and sentence in English. But you don't want any spaces between words and the subsequent punctuation. Also, make sure that you always capitalize the first letter of each new sentence. So if this student works back through his essay and makes all of those changes that I just mentioned, you'll see a boost in your mechanics score. Something else now, in terms of grammar, this student definitely wants to spend some time reviewing the fundamentals of English grammar. English grammar is not easy to master, so it does take a lot of time and hard work. There are quite a few grammatical errors throughout this essay, and I'm not going to get into all of them today. What I'd like to focus on is something pretty simple, subject-verb agreement. We see this a lot in our submissions. I know when you're stressed out or you're typing quickly, this is an easy mistake to make. So be aware of it so you can go back and make these improvements in your essays. If you're using a singular subject, you need a singular verb. It inflicts, not inflict. You need the singular verb. Conversely, forest are, you want to say forests are. Now, I will add that because this student is talking about the forest as a specific or the most important resource, I would actually keep forest singular and add the article the. So to conclude, the forest is, singular verb, the most important resource. So we're talking about one resource, the forest. All right, so subject-verb agreement, something you can review pretty quickly. There's a lot of sources on the internet. Of course, we can help you out and TOEFL with our ESL Power program, but that is something that you do want to work on and really try and master. Now, in terms of content, I'd like to take a look at one of the body paragraphs. So let's just work through this paragraph kind of quickly. First, it takes a lot of time to recover if they were burned or eliminated. Now, I understand this reason. It's an excellent reason. Something I'd like to point out, anytime you start a new paragraph in English, you want to make sure that you're specific about what you're talking about. So you want to restate the topic. So when I look at this paragraph, I'm not really sure what they refers to. Now I can make the assumption that they refers to the forests, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's a new paragraph, so you want to restate that. So if the forests were burned or eliminated. Also, the idea of recovery is a bit vague. So what do you mean by recovery? Regrowing the forests, reestablishing the ecosystem? Are you talking about the greater community that needs to recover from a forest fire? So you want to be a bit more specific about what you're referring to. This student goes on to talk about particular species that are forced out of the forest because of a fire or the elimination of the forest and might not come back at all. So again, it's a bit vague. You could be specific about what you're referring to, which species are being forced out, why might they not return. So just again, to add a bit more clarity. Now, these sentences are just meant to make the connection between the reason and the student's opinion. So for right now, we're doing all right. But let's take a look at the example. For example, I remember before 4 years. Let me just make a side note. We see this a lot, before 4 years. You would actually say 4 years ago. Our government was fighting terrorism, so they had to burn a large surface of forests to diminish the area where the terrorists would be. Now, I like this example. This is a particularly hard question, as I said, and even though we're always telling you at TOEFL to draw from your personal experiences, to be as specific as possible, with this type of question about natural resources, it can be a little bit tricky to do. But this student is drawing from his own experiences. So there is terrorism in his country, and in order to combat the terrorism, the government eliminated the forests. So this is excellent. Now, unfortunately, it still isn't very specific. So I want to know, first of all, which country does the student come from? What was the issue of terrorism? So be a little bit more specific about what was going on. Why is it that the government made the decision to eliminate the forests in order to eliminate the terrorists? Okay. Now, furthermore, and this is the most important point, the connection about why the forest is an important natural resource and needs to be saved is lacking. The student goes on to say, until now, that forest didn't recover completely. Okay, I understand that the forest had to be eliminated to fight terrorism and that it hasn't recovered. Again, recover is a bit vague, but I'm not seeing the connection. Why does this make the forest the most important natural resource to be saved? Okay, so you're talking about an example that has some potential for development, but it's lacking the connection. Remember that in the introduction, the student states that this is the most important resource. But why is it the most important resource? This example talks about the depletion of the resource, but it fails to really connect back to this idea of why it needs to be saved. So that's what is lacking from this particular example. Now, to really develop this example, as we've said in numerous videos and at TOEFL, you really want to answer the questions who, what, when, where, why, and how. So build a narrative for us. The country was facing an issue with terrorism. The government decided to combat terrorism by eliminating the forests. The forests still have not been restored. What does that mean for the larger community? What does that mean for the country's natural resources or how it impacts daily life? So really develop that example, connect it back to your opinion, and why ultimately is this a good reason to save the forests? So that's what you want to keep in mind. If you add that kind of detail, if you make that kind of connection, you will see your word count increase. So it's pretty challenging to do, but as I said, I want all of you at home to work with this question, and I want this student to work with this question as well. Even though, as I said, it might be difficult to draw from personal examples, you can see how it's possible to do it. You just want to make sure that you always make that connection, so bring it back to your opinion. So choose which of these three you think is the most important natural resource to be saved, and spend some time brainstorming and thinking about what kind of examples from your own life or experiences from your own life you can draw from to really support your opinion that this is the most important natural resource that needs to be saved. So what experience have you had with forests, animals, clean water? Why is this your opinion? So spend some time brainstorming your experiences, then think about your example or your reasons and how they would connect or how your examples connect to your reasons, and then practice writing this essay. See if you can add that kind of detail, that sort of clarity and connection that it needs to really increase the word count, to write a bit more thoroughly about this particular topic. As I said, it's challenging. So again, I just wanted to give you a quick review of this essay today and a couple of feedback points on how it can be improved. I hope you've learned something from this video. Feel free to add your comments below. If you're interested in participating in our Wednesday review series on YouTube, please go to our forum at TOEFL.com. Each week we post a question for speaking and writing. It's very important that you work on that question under actual TOEFL circumstances. So you want to make sure that you follow strict timing conditions. Post your responses to our forum. Next week, we're going to choose one of those responses for speaking or writing to review here on YouTube. So the link below will take you to our website. If you have any questions, please let us know. You can always visit TOEFL.com. We're happy to help. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.